But this first season just wasn't it. It was not the blueprint, and it was not the moment. What's up, BookTube? It's Monty, and today we're going to be discussing Love, Victor, the original show that's airing on Hulu. If you haven't watched it, all episodes are available. Go on, get your free trial, get through it, come back here. Well, I guess if you're in America. I don't know how they're airing it outside of the United States, but in America, it's on Hulu. If you're not in the United States, I don't know where you're actually supposed to watch it. There will be spoilers, but before we get into spoilers, I just want to say that I did not like the show. Eventually, I wound up liking most of the actors. I found that initially, I wasn't a super big fan of a lot of the acting in the pilot, but as, like, by the end of the episode, they had won me over. So the acting I thought was great. The cinematography, it's like a Disney show, so it's not like the most astounding cinematography I've ever seen. It was nice. It was kind of flat. There were times where it was very clear that the lighting department did not know how to light Victor's skin. There were several like nighttime shots or dark scenes where he was like fading into the background. And it's not like Michael Cimino, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, should have looked it up. He's not a super dark person, so I thought that was kind of fucked up because you could see all the white people really clearly, but he was blending into the shadows a lot. It was kind of weird. But that, like, it was fine. The writing I thought was questionable, specifically in regards to Simon, and we're gonna get to him. We will talk about Simon. But yeah, like I said, overall the writing I thought was awkward, and I felt that the writing definitely undercut a lot of the characters, and that's ultimately what I found so upsetting about it. So with all of that out of the way, would I recommend you watch it? I don't think it's the worst show I've ever watched, and there are only 10 episodes, and they are roughly 30 minutes. They're really shorter than that because the end credits are like 3 minutes of an episode. I thought was kind of strange. So between the end credits and like the 15 credits at the beginning, really you're looking at like 25 minutes, 27 minutes per episode. I managed to get through it in a day, so I definitely think it's possible to get through it in a day. But I also don't think you're going to be missing out on much if you don't watch it. So that's where I stand on that. Now we're going to talk about spoilers. The major issue that I had, that I think is probably the most objectively bad, is how the show handles Simon, and then how the show handles like everything else. So the premise of the show is that Victor is new to Creekwood. He's just moved to Georgia. His family was previously living in Texas, but there was some drama. They moved. Now they're here. He hears the story about Simon from the former drama teacher, who is now the vice principal, who was never seen from again. Natasha Rothwell was not available, but she killed it in the pilot, which I thought was kind of sad. I mean, I guess later, the character that replaces her is like Ali Wong's, I think she's like the health teacher, and Ali Wong does a great job, so fine, sure, whatever. They play, like, they're essentially the same kind of character. So she tells, Natasha Rothwell's character tells Victor about this kid who came out. It was kind of creepy, actually. The way that Natasha Rothwell delivered the lines, I thought was rather disturbing when you know she's talking about a minor and she's like biting her lip, and it was weird. It kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but that's me. It doesn't have to be you. I thought it was kind of awkward. So she tells Victor about it. Victor finds out, and so after his first day at Creekwood, which is terrible because he just got there, he was all set to come out. He was like, I think I am questioning my sexuality at the very least. But then he sees that Creekwood is like the most homophobic place in existence, and the only person in the whole school that's out apparently is fucking Benji, and there's all this kinds of like questionable, like I said, homophobia. And so he decides he's not coming out. We're gonna lock that down. He's gonna maybe date this girl Mia. Well, I don't think in the episode he's gonna date her, but he's gonna hang out with her. Like, he's open to that. And then at the end, he decides he's going to slide into Simon's DMs, and they're going to be like pen pals. And so Nick Robinson is a producer on the project, but he also, like I said, does voiceover where we hear Simon's advice in each episode to Victor. Some of the advice I thought was kind of questionable. I also thought a lot of Nick Robinson's line readings were questionable. They were definitely all filmed at the same time, which doesn't surprise me, but they all sounded like Nick Robinson had been partying the night before, and now he was in the recording studio and he was gonna be super serious Simon, which I didn't rewatch Love, Simon before this, 'cause I don't think you need to have watched Love, Simon. I don't think you need to have read Simon Versus to enjoy Love, Victor. But I think Nick did voiceover in Love, Simon, and I don't think it was as stilted as it was here. So that just kept throwing me out. Every time Simon spoke in an episode, I was out of it. But then in episode 7, fast forwarding here, Victor decides that he's going to go visit Simon in New York, because I guess Simon and Bram are going to NYU. I don't know. Only Simon and Bram were there. We don't get Leah or the other black girl, Alexandra Shipp. She was nowhere to be found. But they're living in New York with a bunch of other random queer people. And in that episode, it's revealed that Simon has told not only Bram, but his 3 other roommates all about Victor. He's been discussing Victor's entire life situation with his roommates without Victor's consent. And that was a part of the narrative that I couldn't really get over. And I felt that Victor was right to be mad at Simon, and then, I don't want to say wrong to quickly forgive him, but I don't think the narrative made a compelling interest really for me to do it. It was hard for me to watch Nick deliver this line of him justifying telling his roommates Victor's business. And when I stopped watching this show, and I was thinking about it for the past couple of days, I was like, well, in Simon's defense, it's not like he had any reasonable expectation that Victor would ever show up in New York, that Victor would ever meet these people, that Victor would ever really know that Simon said anything. But then I was sitting there and I was like, but Simon was forcibly outed against his will. He didn't get to choose who knew, who didn't know, and he knows that Victor's in that same place. Simon knows that so far, Simon's the only person Victor has told that he's questioning things, that he thinks he might be into men. And so for Simon to be like, well, I'm just going to get advice from my other queer friends because they're queer, I felt that was kind of odd. I didn't like that, and I couldn't. I already couldn't with the show for a multitude of reasons, namely that I've said a lot of times that I like messy relationship dynamics, and I said a lot of times that I fuck with the love triangle, or a love V, whatever we're calling it these days, right? And so the love triangle here, which is really kind of a love square, is you have Victor, and he's interested in Benji and Mia, those are his arms, and then Mia and Andrew had a thing in the past, and Andrew is still really into Mia. So that's kind of the relationship dynamics. You also have Lake over here in the corner, who was into Andrew for 3 episodes, and Felix off in the other corner, who was really into Lake. But I found that even though I really liked Felix at first, he was creepy. He gave off really creepy white man vibes, and I wanted Lake to run. I wanted her to run far and run fast and never kiss that man again. So that is what it is. But the problem for me was really, like I said, it was Victor and Mia and the Benji situation. Because it became really quickly apparent that Mia was just Victor's beard. And there was a lot of emotional cheating going on with Victor and Benji, and the show was giving us a lot of Victor and Benji scenes, and then every time Victor and Mia were together, there was something that would interrupt it or would cause a complication, and they had one cute moment in the pilot, and then after that moment on the Ferris wheel, every other time we saw them together, it was like, we're undercutting it immediately. But he's gonna string along this black girl for the entire show. And not only we're gonna string on the black girl, but we're gonna make the black man the romantic rival because he wants Mia. And he's also the class bully, but we're gonna give him a redeeming moment with the white character. But then in the season finale with Victor, Andrew just stands there and lets all of this shit happen. And it's like, but why? Like, I understand that he's the romantic rival, that he's like this other character waiting in the wings, and I understand that Victor isn't straight, so like, he's making all of these mistakes because he's 16 years old, and he doesn't, like, there's a lot of shit going on in his life. But it was, but then they were also fucking over Mia, who they, like, didn't want to give a mom to, and then we initially are led to believe that Mia's mom is like a drug addict, and then 3 seconds later, like the next episode, we find out that Mia just made that up. Like, she just made up that her mom was a drug addict because one day her mom just left, and thinking of her as an addict was easier. And I'm like, you wrote a black person to have an addict mom, and she was just lying about that to all of these affluent white people? Like, what? Who would do that? It was, like I said, like, the show was just, it made no sense. Like, just no sense. And it bothered me. I felt that the Mia stuff really bothered me the most, like I was saying. It really bothered me that she was strung along by Victor. And I get that Victor had his own shit going on. I'm not trying to argue that his, like, home life was probably conducive to him coming out, even though in his birthday episode we saw him comfortable enough. I mean, there was a moment of discomfort, but he was willing to stand up for Benji and Benji's boyfriend and being like, you're not going to say that shit to them. Like, they're my friends. Like, they're not gross. Like, and then you had scenes with, like, Victor's parents being supportive of his little brother AJ with his Elsa wand when their grandfather was over. And the grandfather was like, you let him play with girl toys. And sure, they tried to, like, rationalize it and be like, oh, it's like he plays sword fighting with it. But it was very clear that that was just a lie they were telling the grandfather, and they were perfectly fine with it. And so you had all these instances where it's like, your parents would totally be fine with you coming out. They would totally be fine with it. And so we had to make Creekwood like this super homophobic place for this storyline to work. And then you took 10 episodes and you filled it with, like, cheating. So even if I wanted you and Benji to get together, I can't really root for it because you're a cheater. But then you were also making Mia low-key cheat with Andrew. And it was just like, if everyone's cheating, well, I mean, I don't think they really cheated because Mia was the Benji in that situation. She did push Andrew away. And Andrew was the victor in that situation, which is why in the finale when Andrew just stood there and did nothing, it was wild to me because it's like, you were literally in the same position here, like literally in the same boat, and you're just letting. I understand, like, why you wouldn't be motivated for that to happen, but it didn't work. None of the things came together for it to work for me, and I honestly just couldn't get over having the black character say their parent was a drug addict when they clearly weren't, and I didn't like the black father was an absentee father, even though he was like a university professor. Didn't like it. Like, all of the things came together for me just to not really fuck with this. And I think what really sucks is that all of the issues I had with season 1, I don't think I could possibly have with the season 2, because we would have to move on from these things. We would have to actually address them. And so I think that it's possible for the show to redeem itself. And so if there was a second season, I probably would watch it. But this first season I felt was just so messy. And because it aired on the Disney Channel, there wasn't an opportunity for it to actually dissect those issues. Because I think that Hulu has a lot of actually great programming. And if it had actually been designed to air on Hulu, and they had been given maybe an hour-long episode instead of a 30-minute episode, that we could have actually delved into these things. So I think that a lot of it was just, it was knocked down in its just the way the product came to be. And so I don't think that there isn't any hope for this series, but this first season just wasn't it. It was not the blueprint, and it was not the moment. So that's what I thought of the show. Mostly all of those negative things. Let me know what you thought down in the comment section below. If you made it this far into the video, leave this emoji. If you are on a Windows computer, you do have emojis if you're using Windows 10. If you hold the window key, the window button on your keyboard, and the period at the same time, it'll pop up and you'll be able to use emojis. I don't know how to do it on a Mac because I don't use a Mac, but on Windows, I know if you hold the window button and the period, the emojis will be there. It might be on Windows 8 and Windows 7. I don't know. I don't use that. I have Windows 10 on all of my devices. But I thought that I would leave that because I've seen some comments where people are like, I'm on a computer. I'm like, obviously, if you just say insert emoji here, like, bitch, I know you made it to the end of the video. I shouldn't say bitch. You might not be okay with that. But I know you made it to the end of the video, and I do appreciate it because I know that I do ramble. So whatever this emoji is, that's what it is for the day. I will try to pick it like a general emoji. But yeah, that's what I thought. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys again soon in another video. But until then, and until next time, bye.